that existential crisis is full of questions. What worth is life? What am I fighting for? What am I working for? And through whatever I am doing, is it worth doing whatever I am doing? Moral dilemmas. Either or neither nor. And it is damned if you do, damned if you don't. It is caught between rock and hard place. And like I am saying, there is always a third way. You are not to ask why. You are but to do or die. The ethical code for uniform services. 11th shlok of the second adhyay of Bhagavad Geeta. But one word summary is kartavya. Overall philosophy of Bhagavad Geeta, which is Bharatiya philosophy, the essence and the best of, which is also universal philosophy, essentially focusing on performing action, doing one's own duty and enjoying that duty. Bharatiya Niti Shastra says, not only what you do matters, what is the intention behind what you do matters. If we can give an exact title to my talk today, the title is Indian Ethics, Bharatiya Niti Shastra. There is no deliberate plan to conduct this session on Geeta Jayanti. It is a happy coincidence that it is Geeta Jayanti today. As per our Bharatiya Kala Ganana, which is of course more scientific. This is Margashirsha Shukla Ekadashi. Exact name for Tithi as we call it. There is a sense of Pavitra, holiness in the very term Tithi. Our own Bharatiya Tithi is Margashirsha Shukla Ekadashi. And it is a Shraddha, where we don't exactly have an equally deep, equally meaningful, equally intense English word. Faith, etc. are not exact translations of Shraddha. It is a Shraddha for thousands of years. To say the least, I'll say at least over 5,100 years. At least. That Bhagavan Shri Krishna narrated Bhagavad Geeta to Arjuna on the very first day of the illustrious Mahabharata war that happened to be the 18-day affair. That was Margashirsha Shukla Ekadashi. Based on references to astronomical positions of the time, experts have calculated that exact day, and in modern time terms it goes to 3102 BC, before Common Era. So Margashirsha Shukla Ekadashi, in the Common Era the name is 1st of December 2025. it is Geeta Jayanti. That when Kauravas and Pandavas were ready for war, Arjuna says, just take my rath in the midst of both armies. I want to see who all are now ready to fight. And then Arjuna sees his own gurus, his own brothers, his own relatives, his own friends who go back a long way, now ready to fight and die. And then an existential dilemma hits him. What worth is that kingdom? Why should I fight? And I don't want such a kingdom which I get by like fighting and eventually killing all of them, my own gurus and whatnot. The famous shloka which defines Arjuna's existential dilemma is Sidanti mama gatrani mukhancha parishishyate. My body is shaking and I am not able to even hold my dhanushya, the Gandiva, that was the name of Arjuna's famous legendary dhanushya. And my mouth goes dry, looking at what is about to happen. Krishna's initial response is very practical, very grounded. He says, how come you are thinking of all this now? It's like saying we tried our best. Whatever is the historical background, I won't spare time over there. And what has happened to you suddenly? What kind of weakness has grabbed you? Klaibhyam masma gama partha. You don't be weak. He also says what you are doing, behaving now, suddenly, it's not becoming of you. Tumko shobha nahi deta hai. Anarya justam, aswargyam, akirtikaram arjunam. The first response is very practical one. So Arjuna repeats the essence of first adhyaya. First adhyaya is entirely Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Is Arjuna's Vishada, despair. So the whole adhyaya is Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Then at the start of the second adhyaya, Krishna's initial answer is hard and practical, with feet on the ground. Not that rest of Bhagavad Gita is not hard and practical. It is. But Arjuna summarizes his moral dilemma again in some 7 or 8 shlokas. And he says, I want answers to these questions. The reality of human life is, it's not some Arjuna only there in Mahabharata. Every human being faces existential crisis at some or other point of time in one's own life. And not just once. It's not like it happens once. It can keep happening. That existential crisis is full of questions. What worth is life? What am I fighting for? What am I working for? And through whatever I am doing, is it worth doing whatever I am doing? Even moral dilemmas are a part of human life, all human beings. That we do come across such situations in life where we suffer either from absence of alternatives. Given the situation, we think we have no alternatives but to follow a particular course of action, knowing fully well that probably that is a disaster. Maybe there is some immoral element in it, but looks like I don't have any other choice. So we suffer either from lack of alternatives, okay? But also remember that sometimes we also suffer from rather too many alternatives. As this another modern day philosopher of existentialism, Albert Camus, he originally wrote in French. Great author, great thinker. single name for his philosophy is existentialism, Astitwavad. In one beautiful story, he has narrated the myth of Sisyphus. The name of the story is Myth of Sisyphus. He builds on an ancient Greek mythological story. That here is Sisyphus, who is supposed to have committed some sin against gods. So under the original story, gods punish him, sentence him to a punishment. The punishment is a huge round rock, which Sisyphus is to keep pushing uphill. Task given to him is he has to establish that rock in a steady position on the top of the hill. But the top of the hill is so sharp that the round rock cannot stay steady there. So all the time Sisyphus is pushing the rock higher and higher, seeking to establish it firmly at the top of the hill. But every time he reaches that hill, the rock slips and rolls down the hill, and so he has to, because the sentence given by God says your job is to ensure it's fixed over there at the top of the hill. That can never happen. In original Greek mythology, this is a punishment to Sisyphus. Albert Camus, with his brilliance, spins another meaning around it, saying Sisyphus was lucky because he had something meaningful to do all the time. That in human life, what is life? Who am I? Why am I living? Why am I following this particular course of action? What is my goal? And what all am I going to achieve by achieving that goal? These questions weaken us also sometimes, soften us, they sap our energy. And various sorts of moral dilemmas, Albert Camus, in interpreting this myth of Sisyphus, he says, Sisyphus was condemned to the choice of life. Precise statement. Okay, Sisyphus had this something meaningful to do. In a way, one can also interpret this myth of Sisyphus as a symbolic expression of even human life. That whoever we are and whatever we try to do, we try to do something, try to go higher and higher. And at some point, that whole thing we think comes crashing down, forcing us to start afresh, newly, and go on with that again. But that's the beauty, that's the very fun, that's something to a joyful experience. This is something I'm doing. There is this great small novel, but eventually Nobel Prize winning, The Old Man and the Sea, by Ernest Hemingway. It's almost a short story written with Hemingway's skill. Here is an old fisherman who has been trying his best to catch fish all the time, but hasn't been able to catch fish for like a couple of days. So on a day he desperately puts his boat into the ocean, hoping now he catches some big fish, and that day, deep inside the ocean, he is indeed able to catch a big fish. Very powerful. So he has to gather all his strength along with the boat to pull that fish the fish catches the hook, line, sinker, and now this fisherman has to pull that boat towards the coast. After catching that fish, and as he is now approaching the coast, other fish attack this fish and they go on biting pieces of that fish, so much so that by the time the old man reaches the coast, actually that fish is no more there. Old Man and the Sea. Another beautiful, extraordinary expression of the whole thing called life. Some people say it's a zero-sum game. Whatever we do, finally you try something at your best, and when you think you have made it and you want to approach the coast, that very thing that you think you achieved is going to be eaten away by some. But then other experts also interpret whether it is Sisyphus or the old man, that they were engaged in some meaningful activity which lends meaning to their life. That they were at it, that they were at something. Forget the end product. Did he get the fish? Did the old man get the fish? Was Sisyphus able to consolidate and fix the rock sphere on the top of the hill? But they say they at least had some meaningful activity to do. So irrespective of the consequences of karma, doing that karma itself lends meaning to life. And while this old man in Hemingway's novel, or Sisyphus in Albert Camus' interpretation of the ancient Greek story, and then of course I would say our own, but Bhagavad Gita is not only our own, Bhagavad Gita is universal. It's everyone's. It belongs to everyone. But each one of us, we are Arjunas, and we are that old man catching fish at the sea, and we are that Sisyphus confronting moral dilemmas all the time. And moral dilemmas of every sort of variety. Today as human beings, tomorrow as civil service officers even. Moral dilemma is a part of existence. And the skill is how we understand those dilemmas and how we find the proper path across those dilemmas. So sometimes like not having the choice, thinking that I don't have a choice, this is the only thing, I don't have a choice. Which actually is not true, let me tell you. When and if we think that I have to follow a particular course of action because I don't have a choice, all I would say is, then it is a restriction on our creative thinking. By definition and in principle, even I would very firmly say with a sense of conviction that wherever we think we don't have a choice, wherever we think no, we have to follow this particular path because there is no other choice, wherever we think there is a deadlock, where we think there is no solution to a given problem, the deadlock is such that whatever I do, there is a problem. Okay? All I will say is that is a challenge to our creativity. Because let me even personally say with absolute conviction that we can always find a path. We can always find alternatives. It's a challenge to our creative thinking when we think we are confronted with such dilemmas, either or, neither nor, as they are stated in Aristotelian logic. Reality is always multidimensional, and it's a challenge to our ability to think and find a path through it. Another modern day great expert in psychology and management, I am talking of Stephen Covey. He wrote many books including 7 Habits of Effective People. Starting with 7 Habits of Effective People. In his life, the last book he wrote is 8th Habit. But one before this book, 8th Habit, he wrote a beautiful book named Third Way. The very name of the book is Third Way. While the book is about 300 plus pages and there is a CD along with that book, there used to be a CD. Physically, Stephen Covey unfortunately is no more, but the books are there. Essence of what he is saying in that book is, there is always a third way. So if we think, I don't have any other way, okay, or if we think that we are confronting two options, both of which are either equally good or equally bad. I'm sure even you must have experienced this. That why we think sometimes we are confronted with a situation where there is no choice. We think, no, I have to do this. Or sometimes we think there are only two choices, they are conflicting with each other, and whatever both the choices are either equally good, so whichever I pick up, they are either equally good, adding to the dilemma, which one should I pick? Or that they are equally bad, that whatever I do, something wrong is going to happen. Every language even has proverbs or phrases to describe this situation. English language says, damned if you do, damned if you don't. And we are confronted with such situations in personal life also, and then in handling civil services also, that whatever you do, you are damned. So it is damned if you do. So there is something you decide to do that, you are damned. So you decide not to do that, you are still damned. So the moral dilemma, the dilemma itself is damned if you do, damned if you don't. Another English phrase is caught between rock and hard place. I am confronting such options for a given situation that whatever I do, there is trouble. Whatever is the option in a given situation, there is trouble. So whatever I do, caught between rock and hard place. At age 16, Shivaji Maharaj decided to build Hindavi Swaraj. His own father was a senior Sardar at Adil Shah's Darbar. And then the news kept reaching Adil Shah's Darbar that Shahaji Raje's son has raised a banner of revolt. So Adil Shah told Shahaji Raje to straighten your son. Shahaji Raje, as was the plan, shook his shoulder, shirt, and he said, he is independent, he doesn't listen to me. So Adil Shah decided to crush this young nascent Hindavi Swarajya by sending a powerful army under Fateh Khan. And at the same time, Adil Shah got Shahaji Raje arrested in the most treacherous way and brought in chains to Bijapur. So, young Shivaji Maharaj is now confronted with a choice which is damned if you do, damned if you don't. Now what to do? That my own father is arrested and is in Bijapur jail. As a true son, of course, I have to look after my father and ensure that he is released. But the term is crushing of Hindavi Swarajya, giving up this vision, this dream, which is the dream and vision for entire Bharatvarsh. And then Fateh Khan is advancing towards your nascent, a very small, a tiny kingdom. Shivaji Maharaj had begun to build Hindavi Swarajya. Moral dilemmas. Either or neither nor. And it is damned if you do, damned if you don't. It is caught between rock and hard place. And like I am saying, there is always a third way. As Stephen Covey defines, so Shivaji Maharaj is the Bap of all third ways. So he writes to Emperor Shah Jahan, Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan, saying, I want to join Mughals along with my father, but there is a problem. There is some misunderstanding between my father and Adil Shah. So Adil Shah has arrested my father. So I am not able to, even if I want, I am not able to join. So Emperor Shah Jahan, on a military expedition in South Bharat, writes a stern letter to Adil Shah saying, our Sardar, Shahaji Raje, is in your custody by some misunderstanding. So the moment you receive this letter, release him otherwise. And then Adil Shah also doesn't want to take panga with Mughals. So he releases Shahaji Raje, and then in Khalad Belsar near Saswad, the young new army takes on Fateh Khan, completely beats him, defeats him, so Fateh Khan has to start running back to Bijapur. There is always a third way. It is our skill in finding out the third way in our own life. It's the skill. That is the skill. There is always a third way. A rather good joke comes to my mind. Think of a middle class, typical nuclear family, especially I would say in Pune, Mumbai, or it could also be Pune. What I mean to say is, both man and wife are doing a job. So their life is rushed. And in the morning also both of them have to quickly get ready, maybe pack their lunch, maybe leave for their job, work hard throughout the day. And the hustle bustle of Mumbai life, which is unfortunately now also becoming a part of say Pune life or urban life overall, be it pollution and the hectic schedule and everyone feeling rushed, etc., etc. Okay. One day they receive a guest at home. Then out of sheer some coach, how to tell that guest? Both of them. So it is Atithi Devo Bhava as value system for Bharat. They have to look after that guest. So 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. The guest is not talking about how long is he or she going to stay and then leave. So one day this man and wife meet outside home after their office hours and discuss a strategy of how to ensure that now he has to leave home. This guest has to leave home. Okay. So what is decided is, on reaching home, unfortunately due to misconceived prior notions of gender roles, the wife will prepare food. And then 3 of them will sit around the table, dining table, and soup will be served. So then the husband will taste the soup and say, not good. You forgot to put salt in it. Then the wife would taste it and say, what are you saying? It's okay. 2 of us will ask this gentleman. What do you think? Your smile tells me that you understood that it is damned if you do, damned if you don't. Now you side with the husband. That is, there is less salt in soup. Then their plan was, if he says sides with the husband, wife will get angry and she will say some things which of course Marathi wife can always. I am working my ass off. You people come on and sit on your asses and what's this big trouble about salt, etc. It is food after all. Anna hai Brahma, Anna is Brahma, blah blah blah. If the guest is wise enough to know that one should always side with women, bhalai isi mein hai. So he says, no, it is okay, proper. There is salt in it. How come you don't Then the husband is to get angry. And then out of that anger sort of message, get out of my home. Sitting in my home, you are criticizing me. Get out of my home. So now they are like assured, today we go home, sit down, and this problem will be solved. So they sit around the table, the soup is served, husband tastes it and says, something wrong, no salt. What happened? You forgot? Wife tastes it and says, it is okay. It is okay. Looks like you are developing a special tooth for salt. And you have diabetes, so you should be eating less salt. Both of them ask this guest. And now they are eagerly waiting for the guest response. The guest is unfazed. He just picks up the spoon, tastes some soup, and while putting down the spoon, he just says, suits me. Suits me. There is always a third way. There is absolutely always a third way. So basically all of us as human beings, we are Arjunas and we are the Sisyphuses and we are that old man, and we do confront all such situations of a dilemma or existential crisis. Marathi proverb is ikde aad tikde veer, that whatever I do, I'm in for trouble. Hindi versions also, another Marathi close to Hindi also is agitun fufatat. Agitun fufatat, that I'm trying to get out of one fire, but I fall into another. Worse than that. Fufata is a typical Marathi word saying bigger fire also. Agitun fufatat. The Hindi proverb also puts it, proverbs always contain collective cultural wisdom. So the Hindi proverb is आसमान से टपका खजूर में अटका. I tried to do something with some intention, etc. And now look what has happened. So आसमान से टपका खजूर में अटका. Our skill is how we understand these existential crises, how we apply our mind to these existential crises, and that there is always a third way, and how do we find a path across all those third ways. Bhagavad Gita then summarizes it in a very simple sutra, a beautiful 3-word description that says, Yogaha karmasu kaushalam. That the very act of living itself is yoga. It's not like you have to do some particular positions. They are enhancement for yoga. But the very act of living itself is yoga. It means connecting. And then yogaha karmasu kaushalam is skill in action. Yoga is skill in action. I have to follow a particular path of life. Okay, I have decided to prepare for UPSC. I want to be IAS officer, IPS officer, IFS officer. So on being selected, some training, and existential crisis or moral dilemma will be a daily part of your life. That I can absolutely assure you all the time. So given such choices, yogaha karmasu kaushalam will mean how we find the proper path through all this. So yogaha karmasu kaushalam. So like I said, Shri Krishna's first response to Arjuna's existential crisis is literally to almost scold him, reminding of the practicalities. Also tell him, you are developing weakness right on the very spur of the moment where now you have to perform. But in the second adhyaya, Arjuna still continues his existential crisis, saying, you are the only one who will guide me. Then on finding that this time the crisis is deep and fundamental answers to fundamental questions of life, fundamental questions of existence are required, Arjuna begins with 11th shlok of the second adhyaya of Bhagavad Gita. But one word summary is kartavya, duty. One word summary of entire Bhagavad Gita, one word summary of all Vedas and all Upanishads and all religions and all their basic holy books and all, in terms of our life, one word summary is duty, no matter what. Kartavya. And then Bhagavad Gita teaches us to do duty at better than our best, and still it is to be detached, alipta. And detached from what? The answer is detached from getting entangled into the consequences of my duty, karma. You are to do your karma. and not get entangled, lipta, not get entangled in the effects of your karma, the consequences of your karma. Why? Because don't worry about the fruits of your action. Shri Krishna assures, Bhagavad Gita assures, and as a disciple, I too assure that you will get the fruits of your karma. Don't worry about that, but don't get entangled, lipta, in thinking, in worrying about the fruits of my action. You focus on action, karma, duty. Ensure that that is done at better than your best. Not only that that duty is to be done at better than your best, in fact, enjoy it. Do it happily. Do it happily. And the balance is, while you do not have any right to the fruits of your action, you will get them, but actually at the end of the day you don't have. Okay, it's very simple to understand. I don't think overall philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, which is Bharatiya philosophy, the essence and the best of, which is also universal philosophy, essentially focusing on performing action, doing one's own duty and enjoying that duty. It is very easy for everyone to understand that the end product of our action is most certainly not under our control. What is under our control is our karma, our action. So, karma yoga is not only for some Arjuna facing some existential dilemma and some Shri Krishna answering that, or then some Vivekananda, some Lokmanya Tilak and some Vitthal Ramji Shinde in Maharashtra and Karmavir Bhaurao Patil in Maharashtra, that they interpret and live life like a karma yogi. In fact, that is the natural path for all of us. In our life, our freedom is freedom for karma. The effects are not under our control. And there is no question of delving into some deep and complex philosophical analysis. The simple thing, like after today's session, whatever you want to do this evening, whatever, my best wishes, you know that. You want to go to Ferguson Road? बताओ किसके लिए किससे बात चलाओ. Whatever you want to do. Okay. For the sake of discussion, let's say after the session, all of you are to go, want finally to go to your home. Take a pause and ask yourself, is there 100% guarantee that you will reach home? To paraphrase the same question, why two of you want to go together? She's like looking at him like, आता काय करायचं? If reaching home is not under our control. Oh my God. Is there an absolute 100% guarantee that we will reach home? Okay? The way I put the question, you will begin to see the answer that no, there is no 100% guarantee. Okay? So, what is under your control? You will begin to see that to do things in order to reach home is under your control. So after the session is over, we say our prarthana and then you can walk out of the hall or switch off from your online session. If you are online, maybe put on some clothes after the session is over. Because now you have to go out or wherever. Karma is under your control. Karma phala is actually not and never under your control. And still Bhagavad Gita assures that, and don't worry about that, you are going to get karma phala. But focus on the excellence of your karma. And teach yourself to enjoy doing that karma. Bhagavad Gita then also sounds a note of caution for all of us. That on one side, doing one's own karma with full dedication is likely to make us get entangled in the whole karma and expecting karma phala. Liptata. While on the other hand, thinking that I am to do my karma in a detached way, then you may fail to concentrate on excellence of karma. As it is, why bother? As it is, karma phala is not under my control. So why bother to even do the karma? Again, especially talking with the kind of youngsters that I am, really, when I pose the next question, am I adding to your worry? You want to prepare for UPSC, you want to clear pre-mains interview, and most of us want to be IAS. Maybe some of us have IFS as our first choice, and then some others with the fascination for police uniform, maybe IPS, and some for whatever are their reasons. For them, I would say guilty till proved innocent, that they choose IRS as their first choice. Whatever are the misconceptions about IRS, etc., is there a guarantee that you will clear UPSC exam and that you will get the service of your choice? Is there any guarantee? We know the answer. There is no such guarantee. The only guarantee is for us to study hard, study smart. In fact, the only guarantee for us to enjoy that study. That itself will enrich us. And while we may think of what karma phala we want, and then begin to feel sad or sorry thinking we didn't get that karma phala, Bhagavad Gita, and so do I, assure that in fact you will get karma phala. It may not be in terms that you expected, but it may be in some completely different terms. Just before coming here, I had a meeting with a Director General in Government of Maharashtra right now. He sought my time. And he came with another officer. The moment he entered my room, I recognized him as Chanakya Mandal student. His first name is Nitin. And he had done UPSC course back in 2010, 15 years ago. He was extremely happy to enter and discuss the issues with me. The points were about skill development in youth and what all needs to be done at, say, Maharashtra level and the national level also. For all India, there is a national body called NITCON, N-I-T-C-O-N. NITCON is a national body for training youth. And this Nitin is working as a senior executive with that NITCON. So now, like, he did the courses, he did better than his best to prepare for UPSC, whatever n number of attempts, etc., etc. Did he get the karma phala that he thought at that point of time? I have joined Chanakya Mandal and I am doing the UPSC, MPSC course and I want to be class 1 officer, etc., etc. Maybe he did. But does it mean he is a failure? Does it mean his karma has all gone west? No. He finds another path. And the karma does produce phala, which may be different from what he originally thought, but the phala is a beautiful phala. It is a sweet phala. So, Bhagavad Gita assures that you will get karma phala. Don't worry, it is not under your control. What is under? Did Nitin work for joining NITCON? But he found an opening. And what he studied to prepare for UPSC automatically built him for now becoming a senior executive with NITCON. Barely 3 days ago, another absolutely brilliant Chanakya Mandal student got married. You people remember that, because I sought your permission that day to close the session 20 minutes in advance, like I am going to do today, not because again someone is getting married. He had cleared UPSC pre-mains twice in the very first 2 attempts, age 21, 22. 2 consecutive state interviews, not a small thing. But an excruciatingly painful thing is, he didn't get selected. Actually, UPSC mains results have come out some days ago. And I'm very happy that now youngsters from all over India are in contact with me. So after the result, one Rajasthani youth sent me a message on WhatsApp that the previous one was my 6th attempt. And I had reached interview, and that was my 3rd time I was reaching interview. He says, you had given me 196 marks. This is outstanding score, mind you. For UPSC interviews, anything at and above 180 is an excellent score. So the very fact that I assigned 196, it means I found something in him. I told him whatever. So he remembers that. Then he says, whatever words you use them, they are like encouraging me. And I look forward to succeeding very soon. I conveyed him best wishes. Okay. Is he a failure? The answer is no. Is this young, another brilliant Chanakya Mandal student I just spoke about? He got married 3 days ago. Reaching interview stage twice and still not getting selected. That was at age 21, 22, where we know the career profile that you get selected at age 21, 22. Okay? You are bound to reach the topmost post of whichever service you finally get selected. So have all efforts these people did, have they gone waste? Answer is no. You do get karma phala. It may not be in the terms you think. He is already an officer. Our student who married 3 days ago, he is already an officer with Government of India, another department, another responsibility, not what he thought is the first choice, etc., etc. So we do get karma phala, it is perfectly scientific. But it is not under our control. Therefore, our job is to focus on our karma, do it with full dedication, and still it is dedication and detachment. Beautiful word. Alipta. With full dedication. Do your karma with full dedication. And still it is to be done with detachment. And the note of caution is, on one side, in the process of doing your duty with full dedication, okay, don't get entangled into consequences or results of your karma, action, karma phala. Okay. And on the other hand, because we are supposed to do detached karma, and because in any case karma phala is not under our control, why bother? Why have dedication towards karma? Why work hard? Why work smart? Why shed tears and sweat and even blood doing one's own duty, etc.? After all, if karma phala is not under our control, why bother for that? That is also a note of caution sounded by Bhagavad Geeta, the most famous shloka, Karmanye Vadhikaraste, 47th shloka in the 2nd adhyaya of Bhagavad Geeta. That you have a right to your karma. Ma phaleshu kadachana. Don't get entangled into karma phala, the consequences of your action. And ma karma phala heturbhu ma te sangostva karmani. What a beautiful balance in explaining life. Ma karma phala heturbhu. That is, do not do your karma only focused on karma phala. I have to say, it also doesn't mean that we should not be clear about what are our goals. It does not mean that. We should be clear about our goals. But with that clarity on the goals, now focus on excellence of your karma. Don't keep thinking about the karma phala every time. It's like sowing a seed. Once you sow the seed, you are supposed to supply regular water and fertilizer and clean up the soil around it, etc. Okay? If you dug up the seed every day and try to find out, am I getting karma phala? I am doing all this, but am I getting karma phala? The seed will die. The seed will sprout, man, don't worry. The seed will sprout. You do your karma properly. So, ma karma phala heturhu is like don't get entangled into karma phala, the consequences of one's own action. And ma te sangostva akarmani, non-action, inaction, not doing our action properly, because after all, if consequences of my karma are not under my control, why bother? So, patatakne, as they say in Marathi, bekar kaam, third rate as it is, why bother, why, etc. That is a note of caution. The most beautiful balance is dedication to duty, enjoying performing one's own duty without getting entangled into the end product or results. They will be there. Don't worry about that. But you focus. This is yoga karmasu kaushalam. The real skill is in how we find our path across even various moral dilemmas and different types of situations we confront in our life also, and they are bound to come your way when you work in the civil services also. Many, if not most, of the case studies given to you in section B of the paper, almost all of them are bound to have some or other moral dilemma. Now what to do? You are posted as an officer at a certain place. Some developmental work is going on. Contract for that developmental work is given to your friend. Unfortunately, you find that things are not okay with that project. In fact, you also find that your friend is actually not doing whatever duty. There is some maybe corruption, but the friend is well connected with politicians. Plus, you also know that if you take a tough action against that friend, you know he has a wife, he has kids, they are going to the school, all of them are going to suffer, so what are you going to do? Some such various case studies will essentially be about moral dilemmas, various kinds of dilemmas. And the dilemmas will always be there, will all the time, even in handling. That is what life is all about. In fact, every step there are dilemmas. Our skill is how do we find a path across them. On this also there is this lovely Hindi saying, किस तरह से होना चाहिए काम, सांप भी मरे और लाठी भी न टूटे. ये जो हिंदी में अच्छा कहा जाता है कि the skill, you have to kill that poisonous snake, but kill it in such a way that सांप भी मरे और लाठी भी न टूटे. So yoga karmasu kaushalam tells us essence is in karma yoga, essence of even Bhagavad Geeta, essence of entire ethics is in this single term duty. So whenever in doubt, apply this term. And you will find a path in your life also, and in terms of GS4 also, you will find the solution to a given case or a given question in, say, section A. Another beautiful description also says, Samatvam Yoga Uchyate. Equanimity. Samatvam, that is a tapascharya. The ability to develop equanimity. So, whether the prelims mains paper is easy or difficult, whether the ongoing interview is in a friendly atmosphere or a hostile atmosphere, whether the panel member is putting questions in a very friendly way, or some candidates sometimes have also told me, and I know personally especially, that sometimes the entire panel or maybe one or two members put questions in such a way that they sound hostile. How are we going to maintain our equanimity so that the happy state of mind continues? And only from the happy state of mind that better than your best will come out. If you are tense, if you are worried, if you are losing sleep over things, then the best will not come out. For the best to come out, it has to be a relaxed position. Whatever you are playing, the game called cricket or the game called life. And then ups and downs are a part of life. Nobody ever lives a life which is only full of ups. Its opposite also is 100% true. Nobody ever lives a life which is all the time down. So ups and downs, sukha dukkha, yash apayash, asha nirasha. Beautiful Bharatiya word is dvandva. Dvandva. The two-ness, dvandva is a part of life. Day and night. In fact, you will see that there is no sukha without dukkha. And there is no dukkha without sukha. Most of the times, in fact, it is contextual. We think something is sukha on the background of some dukkha. Or something as dukkha on the background of sukha. There is no day without night, and there is no night without day. These are inevitable parts of everyone's life. Even if tomorrow you clear UPSC exam with flying colors, you come out on top, you are the country's topper, does it mean your life is now like, okay, what a beautiful life. You are country's topper, everyone's hero, everyone is welcoming you. Still, whatever is life, the way to go is samatvam yoga uchyate. Samatva, sama buddhi, whatever is happening, okay? It doesn't mean I don't understand pleasures and pains. It means I do understand pleasures and pains, but I will not be carried away by them, either way. I do understand pleasure, but the way I look at that will be sama buddhi, an equanimity. Yes, I understand this is pleasure. I'm happy. Okay. So tomorrow some pain comes my way. I do understand. I do feel pain. It doesn't mean I don't even feel pain. It is the capacity to rise above them is samatvam yoga uchyate. So, indeed, Bhagavad Gita is the essence of Indian ethics, Bharatiya Niti Shastra. It summarizes all Vedas, all Upanishads, almost all subsequent developments in not only Bharatiya philosophy, I dare say almost all subsequent developments even in global philosophy. Studying ethics, we are told, two approaches called ontological and teleological approaches. The main sort of name that is normally quoted for ontological approach happens to be the German great philosopher Immanuel Kant. And the essence is, ontological approach says, everyone deserves dignity. And not only about what are your goals, but morality is about the ways you follow in order to achieve those goals. Even those ways need to be moral ways. While teleology may focus on the end product. Okay, that this particular thing is a goal. I have to achieve that. State has to achieve that. Society has to achieve that. Various institutions within society, so family, okay, religion is another institution. Church, not as Christian church, church as religious institution called again, is an institution. So each one may have some goal to achieve. And then you, as long as you achieve that goal, it is okay. Doesn't matter what path you follow to achieve. The simplified version of teleology is ends justify means. That ends justify means. There also again Bhagavad Gita and Bharatiya philosophy, I believe, goes deeper. It is not only about, of course, everyone deserves dignity under Bharatiya philosophy. Not only that humans deserve dignity, animals also deserve dignity. Trees deserve dignity. Rocks and mountains and rivers also have the same divinity that is in each of us. Therefore, they also deserve dignity. Environment deserves dignity. Under Bharatiya philosophy, that is so because there is one single chit, consciousness pervading everywhere. And the variety of expression that we see is all material outward expressions of that original chit, the sort of pure consciousness. And it is from that standpoint that everything, everyone, of course, deserves dignity. When it comes to solving this riddle of karma, the riddle of existence, Bharatiya Niti Shastra says, not only what you do matters, what is the intention behind what you do matters. Things you are doing in your life, what matters is what is the consciousness behind that. I hope you begin to see that it goes way deeper than ontology or teleology. Is it only about ends justify means? Sometimes some people argue that that's what Bhagavad Gita says. Actually, it doesn't. It's not that end justify means, so you are okay to follow any means as long as you achieve that end. Some shlokas are quoted, but I'm trying to go still deeper. Essence is in what is the intention behind what you're doing. So it's not only about the outward karma, the action you are doing, the steps you are taking. What matters is not only the end product of those karma, that karma. What is the goal, teleological, what is the ontology, etc. What matters is what is the consciousness behind what you are doing. You will begin to see that yes, there are occasions when the outward karma may appear to be like clean and okay, but it is done with a cunning and a devious intention. Or sometimes it may appear like someone is doing some harsh, some tough step for which someone in the short run or in the immediate consequences you think they are suffering, man, why are you doing that? But what emerges from that is a general welfare of either that person, that group, that institution or whatnot. So it's not only karma that matters, it is your intention behind that karma. And it's again also not either or. Even in government, you will come across many such things where some officer does something wrong. On being caught, he or she says, I didn't intend so. I didn't intend so will not be an escape route. Because it doesn't, when karma is to be analyzed, this is what man, this is what you did. You are an officer. There are all India civil service rules, they are called conduct rules. And an officer is supposed to be committed to behave within those. For state level also, each state has its own conduct rules. For Maharashtra, they are called MCS, Maharashtra Civil Service Rules. And yes, there is law. And okay, if you did something unlawful, you cannot argue that was not the intention behind what I did. You drink and drive and unfortunately hit a couple on a motorcycle, both of them die. You can't say it was not my intention. Law will still say you are guilty. Law may at the most segregate between intentions. That okay, it was not your intention to kill that couple, but you are accountable for your actions, and your actions resulted in death of those two, so you will be held to account. So it is karma and intention, both together. It is not either or. It is not like either ends justify means, or the path also is important. Bharatiya philosophy also, and so does law, so does also modern law, that the intention and the action together produce whatever is the karma phala. So this conscience principle is very important in Bharatiya ethics and all over, global. I don't have to keep saying all the time that Bharatiya ethics is universal. It's not really about a geography called Bharat. There is nothing narrow, nothing sectarian in the Bharatiya ethics that I am trying to say on this Geeta Jayanti day and through the main madhyam of Bhagavad Geeta. But the analysis of action has taken Bharat to this deep root that what matters most is what is the intention, consciousness behind it. Among the best of all time jokes I have heard, here is one. There is one hunter roaming through jungles. He sees a big bird and fires an arrow at that bird. The arrow hits that bird and the bird gets injured and falls down at a place. There is a herd of cattle going across that place. So one cow shits on this bird, injured bird. Shit is big shit. So one cow, big shit, shits on that injured bird. Now this hunter who is looking for that bird comes in search and reaches that jungle. That bird inside that cow dung is trying to wriggle out and struggle and making some sounds, some noises. So the hunter understands that probably that bird is under this cow dung. So he starts scratching that. So the bird thinks, okay, someone is here to give me relief. So makes some more sounds. In the end, the hunter picks up that bird, kills that bird, whatever, eats it or whatever. What is the moral of the story? Moral number one is, not everyone who shits on you is your enemy. Moral number two is, not everyone who tries to get you out of that shit is your friend. And lastly and most importantly, moral number three is, when in shit, shut up. So the whole thing is intention. Did the cow shit on that bird thinking this is an injured bird and maybe a hunter will soon come, I want to save this bird, and so shit as a protection? The intention matters. And then when the hunter reaches and tries to get that bird out of shit, is that hunter doing it with intention of helping that bird? So like sort of deepest of an analysis for karma will be this beautiful thing called conscience principle. Conscience principle. Again in Bhagavad Gita, therefore, Krishna tells Arjuna to do your duty in a detached way. Another beautiful words are Nirvaira Sarva Bhuteshu, without enmity towards anyone. It almost rhymes with Abraham Lincoln's famous Gettysburg speech, in which he says, without fear or favor towards anyone, with malice for none. Here we are to do our duty. And then whatever Abraham Lincoln explained. So this task of doing duty with full devotion and enjoying that is also to be done nirvaira sarva. It's not because you are personal enemy and you want to destroy and you want to, it is nirvairas and detached, and it's not from sense of enmity, but it is, this is my duty. I am required to perform this duty. I will perform to the better than my best ability. Enjoy doing that, not worry about karma phala, because I am rest assured the karma phala will be there. So the conscience principle takes us to the deepest level. And then the combination of conscience and karma together produce end products, results. So it is not only ontology or only teleology. Bharatiya Niti Shastra in general, best represented by Bhagavad Gita, combines the two to take us to the conscience level. Then remember that that is also a principle in civil service functioning. The way it is described in civil service as conduct rules applicable to civil servants. Okay? The bottom line statement is, every civil servant shall obey orders under one's own conscience. That is the description. Every civil servant shall obey orders under one's own conscience. This is a very deeply meaningful diktat. That basically civil services have a certain defined structure. Any which way that it is, the fact is today, and it's most likely to continue in future also, that the structure is essentially hierarchical. That given the structure of the organization, you there are working at certain level within that structure. Maybe you have some colleagues, some juniors, and you have some seniors also. And you are accountable to, you are answerable to, your reports go to, and your confidential reports will be written by those seniors. They may be administrative seniors, they may be politically elected ministers, therefore those who get to issue orders to you. The normal principle in civil services, orders are to be obeyed. So the basic principle is orders are to be obeyed. There is a caveat that says that civil servants are duty bound to obey orders as long as they are constitutional and statutory. The civil servants are under no obligation to obey illegal orders or unconstitutional orders. That is where the element of character will come into play, that you must be tough enough. You must have that spine, that steel in your spine, which also means that apna sikka khara hona chahiye. You need to be clean, straightforward, well studied, the one who understands law, the one who works from no self-interest. And then if you think some unconstitutional or illegal order has been issued to you, then that principle that civil servants have to obey the orders, it's not applicable. The orders have to be constitutional and statutory. Normal principle is yes, you have to obey the orders. There is also a moral consideration to all of them. That it is quite possible that sometimes on paper, so to say, a given order may sound like constitutional or statutory, but someone may have some moral issue with it. Then this sentence, where I am going to go deep into it, every civil servant shall obey orders under one's own conscience. But largely, basically, as an underlying principle, you are required to take those orders, follow them, etc. But once you implement those orders, you are responsible. You cannot say, I implemented them because it was an order from the seniors. Where was your conscience? Where was what is very beautifully called application of mind? Your independent application of mind. Once you perform that action, then you are accountable for your action. You cannot say, I am working in a hierarchical organization where my job is to take orders and implement them. So if you think that was something wrong, then it is not my wrong, it is wrong of the one who issued the order. Now ethics and law does say that the greater criminal is the one who issues orders than the one who implements the orders. That principle is there because it's the one who issued those orders. But you don't have an escape saying, I only implemented those orders. So there is this conscience principle even in civil services that says that civil servants shall obey orders under one's own conscience. There is a very sad, a very painful, but a very meaningful example from history. Under Hitler, Nazis butchered over 6 million innocent Jews. Innocent Jews. And sometime during the Second World War, the world began to come to know that, my God, such a horrible genocide is going on. Brutally killing people for their religion. They are Jews, we will kill them. They are not with pure blood. The so-called final solution, as it was described. And all those names including Adolf Eichmann and Martin Bormann and whatnot. Hermann Göring, so many others. So after the Second World War was over and Nazi Germany was defeated, many German officers working in, say, the Nazi organization or Gestapo as it was called, or the party wing was called SS, stormtroopers, they were held. There is a very famous case known as the Nuremberg trial. Just recently, there is an excellent movie released on 7th of November, in which the lead role of Hermann Göring, Hitler's right-hand man. Hitler is supposed to have committed suicide. There are a lot of urban legends about whether Hitler actually died over there in that bunker, which I got an opportunity to visit when I visited Berlin. But there are urban legends about Hitler not having actually committed suicide, but he changed his like Lux Julia and ran away to Argentina, etc. About Adolf Eichmann, that is true. And Adolf Eichmann was able to change his identity and live in Argentina for almost 20 years, more than 20 years after independence. There is another excellent movie on how Israel got Eichmann in Buenos Aires, that is the capital of Argentina, brought him to Israel, make him stand the trial and was sentenced to being hanged. But Nuremberg trials against these Nazi butchers, all of them argued that we belong to an organization. Most of them actually were army personnel. They said, as far as army personnel, my job, again as sort of best described in one of the best poems of Tennyson, Lord Tennyson. That is a poem on, the title of the poem is Charge of the Light Brigade. Poem itself is from the excruciatingly painful and violent Crimean War of 1856. Crimea still continues to be an important battleground geopolitically speaking, and it is relevant even today. So was 1856. A British army unit received an order of launching a frontal attack on an artillery battery, a straight frontal attack. The name of that unit was Light Brigade. The Bharatiya in me makes me make it a point to tell you that actually all the soldiers were Bharatiya soldiers. Working in British Army, they were Bharatiya soldiers. But the British officer received orders of tomorrow morning at this hour, you will launch a frontal attack. He knew that it means sure death, 600 of them. 600 were to launch an attack. And he knew that enemy artillery so well set that I am going to walk into death. Some very meaningful, very powerful line from that poem also says, fire to the left of them, fire to the right of them, fire in front of them, into the valley of death, rode 600. Lord Tennyson. So as the poem begins to open up, the first, among the first stanza is the beautiful line which best describes army services. And then with some modification one needs to think whether it applies to civil services also. But the line is, you are not to ask why. You are but to do or die. The ethical code for uniformed services, armed forces. Here is an order being issued to you. If everyone starts questioning the order, everyone starts applying one's own independent, rational mind to that and then decide whether I am to follow that order or not, it will be a whole chaos. The organization cannot function. Even in management science, there is a line and staff organization and properly defined authorities, and as long as they are within the framework of whatever constitution, law, etc. When it comes to army, it is you are not to ask why. You are but to do or die. So they went in. Now, Nazi officers argued that after all we belong to uniform service. We were issued orders, our job was to execute them. The stand taken at Nuremberg was that you executed them also makes you guilty to the same crime. Part of the same crime. You cannot escape by saying that we only issued the orders. That you issued, at least to that extent, is your responsibility. That is where this sentence, every civil servant shall obey orders under one's own conscience. It doesn't mean civil servant invokes conscience principle aye din sober. Good English phrase would be invoking conscience principle at the drop of a hat. There is actually a recent case from army. So here is a certain Samuel something in the Sikh regiment of Indian Army. And because it is a Sikh regiment, there is a Gurudwara there. And the whole regiment is supposed to go into that Gurudwara, whatever are the prayers, and sometimes some functions or some instructions issued. This Samuel guy said, it is against my religion. I will not go into this Gurudwara. Army took a stand that you are committing indiscipline. This is Sikh regiment. So, Gurudwara is not about religion. It's not encroachment on your freedom of religion, etc. This is Sikh regiment. You are allotted to Sikh regiment. As a duty-bound, disciplined soldier, your job was to be present over there, etc. So, army took action against him and dismissed him. He approached Supreme Court, saying it is against my religion, in a way conscience, and so I don't want to walk into Gurudwara. Why are they forcing, and then dismiss me? Personally, I am using the word fortunately. Fortunately, Supreme Court ruled that once you join the army, you are required to follow that discipline there. So you are allotted to Sikh regiment. It is not about religion. If the Sikh regiment's activities take place in a Gurudwara, your job was to go. Nobody is asking you to convert to Sikhism, etc. While actually you people ask all others to convert to your religion. That's not what Supreme Court said, but it needs to be told every time these issues come up. Fortunately, in this case, Supreme Court did hold that army action is correct and he stands dismissed. Now this is not an example of conscience principle. There was religious element in it. But can a civil servant refuse to obey an order saying it is against my conscience? Okay? In principle, the answer is yes. But the point is, you need to have that character. Like I said, you need to have that steel in your spine. You need to have that, be that tough, and you need to face the consequences. That you refuse to obey something saying it is against my conscience. I have to tell you, you will come across such situations even in human life and bound to come up in civil service. That on the face of it, things will appear constitutional. Things will appear statutory. Still, there will be a trouble for conscience in implementing this, that you think there is some injustice happening actually. That, okay, it may be legal, but it is not just. There we need to remember that justice is the goal. Law is the means to achieve that goal. So, sometimes yes, the constitution is being followed, it's possible. Life is that complex. And okay, laws also are being followed. So everyone signs, everyone goes on. In the end, what happens is injustice is perpetuated. And the system design and conduct rules and various laws themselves become instruments of perpetuating injustice. So a civil servant has this right to invoke the conscience principle. Like I said, toughness is required for that. You need to be deeply well studied, you need to understand the constitution, laws, whichever is the post, what is the administrative manual for that particular post, what are your responsibilities, and how are in the end you are going to even say, if you refuse to obey an order, how finally are you going to say, I won't do it, it is against my conscience. Now I personally served for only 10 years. I sincerely hope you people are listening to Dharmadhikari. For 10 years, this is what I have said in the last episode, Kshamapana. I have consciously given the name Kshamapana, but I have said, for 10 years there were so many challenges and complications and pressures many times. Be political pressures, pressures by your seniors in the service, etc. Sometimes some journalists misbehaving. Some morcha, some people, some organization, some blah blah blah, okay? But I can tell you that my conscience is clean. And I never did anything wrong, either consciously or deliberately. Never did even one wrong thing. But was I required to invoke this conscience principle? I could say twice I was very close to that. That if on this issue I am going to be forced and the force continues, I am going to invoke conscience principle and finally say, no, I am not going to do this. You need to listen to the original episodes which will help you understand that. But as Chief Executive Officer of Ratnagiri, when there was no elected body, so I was administrator also, exercising all powers of the general body also. Whatever was the reason, I need to cut a long story short, but there was tremendous pressure from a senior IAS officer who, hand in glove with the powerful cabinet minister, went to the extent of ordering me to suspend one particular Grama Sevak, okay, a village level worker from Rural Development Department. So, so-called, in light of IAS officer, etc., he is like too junior for me. I am sad to tell you that it's possible sometimes some officers behave like they are not worried about justice, etc. They are worried about their position, their papers and all. It is that famous story of a female monkey with her kid, and as the tank fills up, in order to save her life, this monkey female pushes her own kid below her and stands above it. The famous story of Akbar Birbal. I am sad to tell you that sometimes some officers do behave like this. मेरे को क्या करना है? मेरा कुछ थोड़ा ही जाता है. And then they come up with these excuses of, okay, these were orders, etc. Actually, they know what they are doing is wrong, but under various pretexts and finally worried about their career, promotions, postings, contacts with politicians, etc., etc. They end up by doing it. I didn't. Not once. Not once. One possibility was when this cabinet minister and then another IAS officer, they were ganging up together to the extent that finally the minister also had issued a written order. That is one way of handling administration. Give me a written order. Because it means the one who issues that written order will be accountable. In this case, the minister also issued the written order and I still refused it. That was fortunately amicably solved, although there was an attempt to trap me into it, create a Vidhan Sabha question, make the minister promise action against the concerned officer, although the state's authority to take action against IAS officer is seriously restricted. That is sort of defense mechanism for me. But there were attempts. That was one time I could be said to be very close to invoking the conscience principle. इसमें अन्याय ही हो रहा है, भले वो एक ग्राम सेवक है, but I will not commit, I will not be party to this अन्याय, etc. Many other such examples. But the essence of karma in the conscience principle, and deeper we understand, we will begin to develop ever better and better officers. You will in fact even see in modern times, the government of India changed the name of the main road in front of Presidential Palace, the Raisina Hill, and South Block and North Block on both sides. Since British times, the headquarters of India's national bureaucracy, its original name was Rajpath. That was a straight copy of the British colonial terminology, because their road, that their king or queen at the time of parliamentary session, it is a very traditional method of they sitting in a particular horse-drawn cart and that travels across a road to reach the British Parliament. That road has the name Kingsway. In London it has the name Kingsway. So more loyal than the king that we were, I would like to use the past tense, colonial mindset. That was called Rajpath. Now in recent times the name was changed. Now the name is Kartavya Path. Is it one more Jumla? Is it game of semantics? Is it only about language? You are free to say whatever you want to say. But however symbolic, it also begins to talk about the attitude. That this is not Rajpath. Something to rule, something to govern, okay? This is Kartavya Path. And every day all civil servants, when they in their cars or whatever travel across that road to go to their offices, they should know that the path on which they are traveling is Kartavya Path. And so also until recently, the road on which we had Prime Minister's bungalow had the name Racecourse Road. It was 7 Racecourse Road. So democracy is a horse race, and political parties and candidates are various horses on which people you bet, and then whoever wins that gets to go to 7 RCR, 7 Racecourse Road. Then the name is changed to Lok Kalyan Marg. You are free to comment whatever you want to. You think it is only some Jumla, one more game of semantics, some change of words, etc. To say the least, you think it is symbolic, but it is also in its symbolism also meaningful, that it's not Rajpath, it is Kartavya Path, and the goal of that Kartavya is Loka Kalyan. Remember that, and I know you will develop into outstanding officers that we want, of course, but you will permit me to call it a day for the timing. We are going to continue this. Let's say our prarthana.